Are you a creative? If you are, you probably know it, but you might not. So let's chat about some clear signs that you are, in fact, one of those creative people. Or not. Welcome to Allie on Life, where I believe that every life is a beautiful story, and I want to help you tell yours, because that's what creatives do. If you happen to be enjoying the content on this channel, please subscribe, because that would help me make even more of these videos for all you lovely creative people out there. You can also sign up for my email list just by clicking the link in the description to this video. So here we go. Are you a creative? Now, I need to let you know that not all of this content is original to me. I found a brilliant article by Jeff Goins when I was doing some research, and it's on his website. I'll link to it in the description to the video. So some of this is just sort of summing up some of the wonderful things that he said, and then I added a little bit of my own flair to it as well. Now, what he says is that there are 3 things that creatives tend to really struggle with consistently. One of them is productivity. Creatives, we don't think in like straight lines. We think in curvy lines and ink splashes and just all over the place madness. We think of dreams and potential and possibilities and silly things like facts and logic and process. Psh, we don't care about those. I mean, maybe some of us do, because like for me, I consider myself to be a logical creative. So I do have like a logical basis for a lot of my approach to life and my creativity. That is important to me. But at the same time, like sitting down and thinking of a linear process for how to come up with something, that ain't gonna happen. My brain does not work that way, and trying to force it to is just a terrible idea. So creatives think more in terms of the potential of things, of ideas. We often have ideas that we don't ever follow through on, because they're just constantly coming, and some of them are great and some of them are terrible, and sometimes we don't know which is which, so we just don't act on any of them. Sometimes those ideas are not connected to each other at all. I mean, I can have one creative session in which I think about, 4 or 5 different totally unrelated things, and it's kind of a nightmare up in there. So we need some help in how to be more productive, more structured in the way that we approach our lives. Because let's just face it is hard to be creative and productive. Another thing that creatives tend to struggle with is insecurity. Most creatives struggle with insecurity at some point in their lives. We are introspective, we're sensitive, we take our work very personally. If we create something and someone criticizes it, it's like they criticized our baby. No one wants to be told that their baby is ugly. And creatives think of all of our work as our babies. But we're also so super hard on ourselves. I mean, we can call our own baby ugly all day long, and we do, and we will. But don't you do it. Don't you do it. Just leave that to me. It is so difficult for a creative to separate their work from their identity, right? Because creating things, that's who we are, right? And the things that we create are the expression of that. So separating ourselves from what we create is very, very difficult, and it can lead to a lot of like depression, insecurity, questioning ourselves, questioning what we've made, wondering if we're ever good, if anything's going to be ever good enough, if anybody's going to like the things that we've made, all that kind of stuff. It's also very possible that we are super defensive of our work and not very open to feedback. I try really hard to be open to feedback, but I don't like it, and I would rather not get it. However, without it, it's impossible to grow as a creative and to improve your work. We all need feedback. We just don't really want it that much. And so we need to kind of work on how we respond to that. And that is something that I'm going to address in a future video. Now, along the same lines as not taking feedback very well, creatives tend to have issues with authority. Shocking! I know. You know what I'm talking about if you're one of these wonderful people. I don't like authority. I'm just going to put it out there. I have a hard time with it. I understand that it's necessary. I understand that there are rules that I need to follow, that there are people that I need to respect and appreciate that are in certain roles in my life that I need to honor their authority, but I still don't like it. And why are we that way? Is it just that we like hate people and we want to be in charge of everything, and when we are like control freaks that want to control everything? No, No, it's really not that. It's that we can usually see a different way to do things than the people who are in charge. And we think our way is better because we're creative. And if people don't recognize and honor that genius within us, we get really upset about it. And we think that, maybe they don't know what they're talking about. Maybe we shouldn't have to listen to them or do what they say. It's always like natural things that this creative tendency creates in us that makes us very difficult people when it comes to like having a job and having a boss or being like, in a really strict organization like the army or the government or something like that. Oh, the government, don't even get me started. I have worked almost my whole life in like government jobs and hated it the whole time because there's no creativity in government or higher education or any of those areas. So if you're a creative, just like don't do that. Stay away, or at least recognize that there's always going to be a tension there between what it is that you're doing and how you feel about it. Now, those are some tendencies of creatives and things that we struggle with, but there are also like a list of more specific creative problems that we often deal with. So we're going to go over those right now. One problem that we often deal with is not feeling like we fit in. Because, there are a lot of creative people in the world, but we're probably not the majority. So most people are what we would call normal people. Normal people always want to argue that there's no such thing as normal, but they're wrong because they're normal. We are creative. We are different. We are a whole different kind of thing. And those normal people are not going to understand us, and we're not really going to understand them very well. So we don't fit in with like normal society. Another problem that creatives sometimes deal with, or maybe it's just me, maybe it's air quotes, okay? They keep happening. Here they are again. Another problem is not being able to work in a normal job. Why? Because normal jobs have rules and they have authority and they're very boring, and we're always going to see ways that we can improve things, do things differently, do things faster, more efficiently. Or, hey, this is in my list of responsibilities for my job, but this over here would be so much more fun and I could do it a lot better. Maybe I should do that thing over there. And meanwhile, your boss who hired you for this thing is like, no, just do your job. You're like, but I can't now because I saw this possibility and now that's all I want in my life. It's a problem. So if you're a creative, you're probably not going to have a lot of longevity in any of your jobs unless you work for yourself, which is a whole different issue because going back to the insecurity and the imposter syndrome and the creative blocks and all of that, it's going to be maybe a little bit difficult to bring in like some consistent income. But if you can figure it out, which you can because you're creative, then eventually you can get to a place where maybe you can have a little bit of peace in your life. And that is what I'm hoping for myself. So we're going to try that. We just keep trying. Along with not being able to work a normal job, or not feeling like you fit in with other people, there is this constant feeling of overwhelming failure. Because, if I were just a different kind of person, if I weren't this weird old creative, then maybe I could have a normal job. Maybe I could fit in. Maybe I could actually make something that would be worth making that people would appreciate and care about and blah, 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 blah. And oh, woe is me, I can't, so I failed every single day of my life. Boo freaking who? And when you have a constant feeling of overwhelming failure, you know what else you need? It's a constant need of affirmation. Us poor creatives, we have to be told pretty frequently that we're doing a good job and that the things that we make are worth making and that the lives that we live are worth living in this world, because sometimes we lose sight of that and sometimes we think maybe it's not. Maybe I just shouldn't be here. Creatives often struggle with depression and self-worth and things like that. So if you know a creative, give that person a hug and tell them they're doing a good job because they need it. Now, I've talked about a lot of negatives about being a creative, but really creative people are what make this world work. We solve problems. That is what creative people do. And that's why we're talking about creative people, or creatives as I call them, rather than like creators. We're not making something out of nothing. Only God can do that. He is the creator who has created everything that we're just sitting here working with and tweaking in our own creative little ways, okay? But we don't just create creative things. We don't just create art or movies or songs or books. We create solutions to problems. I often say that as humans, we are really, really good at creating huge problems for ourselves. And then we're also very good at fixing those problems. And then we create more problems with the way that we fix the other problem, and it just becomes this endless cycle that we have continued to perpetuate for all of human history. And that is because of creative people. We create problems, and we solve problems, and we create more problems, and then we solve them. And the world just wouldn't work the way it does if it weren't for creative people. Honestly, that is how most of us make money, because people will pay us to solve their problems. So if you've ever questioned whether or not you're a creative person, maybe you feel a little bit artistic or you have a little bit of musical talent or something like that, but you're not sure that you're creative, if you create solutions to problems, you're a creative person. So what about you? Do you think of yourself as a creative? Did you think of yourself that way before this video, or did I change your mind? And what are some problems that you struggle with? Share those in the comments, and I will read them and think about them and probably make a video about them at some point in the future. Well, that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Now get out there, be creative, and tell your story, because the world needs to hear it. Burped. Yes. Now, kind of along the... How many times can I use air quotes in this video? We'll see. All of them. We're just gonna air quote the whole video now. I got bunnies. Little bunnies. Yes. I could do commercials. I'm available.